Is our big interview now. We're glad to bring in the real Bret Bielema, who's joining us from Champaign to talk about this upcoming game he's got. Bret, you've been in the Big Ten for so long. You've been a head coach for so long. How have spring games changed over the years that you've been a head coach?
You know, great question, Mike. This is my 16th year as a head coach. Basically, majority of those have been, in the Big Ten, 5 at Arkansas, but 11 here in the Big Ten. And I would tell you they've changed dramatically for 3 reasons. Really, you have so many new players that enter your program, right? It's not just the seniors leaving and a couple of freshmen. I had 10 new incoming freshmen that literally went to prom this semester as well as spring practice. And then, on top of that, you have we have 12 new players from transfers that entered, right? And then on top of that, because of the way your roster is so transitional, you can get really lean at certain positions in a hurry. I had to cut a practice short because we ran out of inside linebackers. So it's different because of the numbers game, but also, I don't think the game of football has changed. You're still trying to get better every day on fundamentals. Football is great, but we really take these 15 practices. Good football plays are usually the result of good fundamentals, and that hasn't changed.
What is the goal of a spring game now? Or is there really no goal? It's just our 15th practice.
I just think the kids will go anywhere you ask them to go as long as they know where they're going, right? So we literally set up practice goals. When we go to scrimmages, we set up scrimmage goals, offense, defense, special teams. So there are goals that take place. For me as a head coach, the number of guys that enter the field on Saturday, that spring game, I want that same number to leave, right? Because hopefully we stay injury-free. But I think overall, you want to get better at football. You want to instill confidence. We do a lot of ones against the world because I want those ones to play with some confidence and let our twos understand that if they play against the best and have success, they'll move up. So there's a lot of little hidden gems in a spring game every week.
Yeah, you mentioned prom. I heard you on the radio with Anthony and Matt Schick the other day talking about your story about your QB, Petty, who you've promised moms, anyone who comes out of high school early to the program, you'll let them go back for prom. And he took you up on it.
He did. He took me up. What I didn't know is he was going solo. I thought he had some live date that he was going to see, but he was going solo. He said, Coach, I'm going with me, myself, and I, which I love because that kid is a QB through and through.
I was just going to say he's clearly got confidence, which is good. Give me the big picture landscape on that position, the quarterback spot on this upcoming Illini team.
Obviously Luke started a lot. Luke Altmaier started a lot of games for us, was a transfer in from Ole Miss. I think last year was a huge growth process for him, just not football-wise, but also playing the way we play here at Illinois. Tommy DeVito obviously set the stage a year before as a 1-year transfer out of Syracuse. We got excited because Luke has as much as 2 to 3 years and thought he had good growth. Unfortunately, got knocked out of a game, missed a couple games, and I think during that process really appreciated what he had, and his growth this spring has been awesome. His early down understanding, his ability of the concept. I think offensively, Barry Lunny, another spring with him is just the growth has been unbelievable. Added a guy in the wide receiver room, Coach Stepp, who joined us from South Carolina, and him and Barry had worked previously. I think the continuity in the passing game is very evident, and the running game has gotten better. We got some new and some guys have improved from last year in the O-line room. So not only Luke, but I would say Donovan Leary from a year ago to this year might be one of our most improved players. Really excited about what he brings to the table. You can see his demeanor, his confidence, his swagger. He was a good player when we recruited him. Playing really good football right now. Excited about him. And then a couple other guys, Kirkland Mishaw, who joined us a couple of years, has gotten a lot better and done some really good things in that with the threes. Trey Petty coming in, Cal Swanson, some guys that have really done a nice job, and really excited to see that room on Saturday.
If I made you pick one position group that has made you feel very good as we're coming to the end of the spring, what would it be?
I would say in general on defense, by far the outside linebacker room, and on offense, the O-line room, the growth at both of those rooms have a lot of good returning players. And we added a few new guys into it, especially on the offensive side. We've really added some guys in there that I think have bolstered us immediately. So Bart Miller and then also an assistant coach, Byron Bell, who's our graduate assistant, played in the league for 8 years, that has really been a dynamic impact into our room. So overall, offensive line as a whole in the entire roster, probably the biggest jump in the way they perform. Josh Geske, Josh Kreutz, a guard in the center that have really grown. Zy Chrysler has been with us the whole time. J.C. Davis, Melvin Priestley, Kevin Wigginton, some guys that we brought in from the outside world, has really turned that offensive line room into something that I think we all hoped it would be.
This year, Memorial Stadium, this legendary palace of college football, is 100 years old. And in October, you're going to play Michigan, the 100th anniversary of that legendary Red Grange 6-touchdown game against the Wolverines. You have a program with such incredible history of players like Grange and Dick Butkus and all that. What is it like educating these young players about the particular program they have and the legacy that was there before them?
It's been really fun. Even me coming here, I was from Illinois. I didn't go to school here, but I learned a lot about Illinois. I've been in this conference at a couple other stops and learned about Illinois' history, but nothing like when you get here, Memorial Stadium, to have the names of fallen soldiers at the base of every one of those columns around our stadium that define Memorial Stadium. You mentioned it with Red Grange, and then obviously Dick Butkus passing last year, to see the outpour of emotions there. This game has meant a lot to our athletic director, Josh Whitman, who, in my opinion, is the best AD in the entire country, who went to school here. He's from Indiana, came here, played, got 2 degrees. Now he leads our entire athletic department. It's meant a lot to him. We literally talked about that game that day, going back to my first interview. So I know it means a lot to Josh. We're going to do a lot of special things around that game, but ultimately to play Michigan at our place in Memorial Stadium. We lost a heartbreaker up there a year ago to a really good football team. So I think our guys have been excited about that game. Got quite a few before and after it, but that game will be very special.
Looking back at last season, Brett, there were so many close games for you guys. I mean, half the contests were a field goal or less. Does a close loss inspire you that you're getting your team closer to where you want it to be, or does it drive you crazy that you were 1 or 2 plays away from a win?
You know what, Mike, to be honest, it's probably a little bit of both worlds. As a head coach, I always got to view things from 60,000 feet up, right? Like, just, you got to do that in our profession. For me, I know where we've been, where we're going. Going into my 4th year, I couldn't be more excited about where we are. There's things in the past that have upset me, but also things that have made me excited, right? Like, if you take a holistic approach, my first year we went 5-7. If we could have one more win, would have been bowl eligible. Next year, we start off rolling 7-1. Unfortunately, hit a hiccup, losing 3. Go to the bowl game and have a heartbreaker at the bowl game to go 8-5, but we played in a January 1 bowl game for the first time in a long time. And then last year to go 5-7 again, to know that if we could have found one more win in year 1 and year 3, we would be at 3 straight bowl games, which is unprecedented in Illinois history. But you can wish in one and have reality in the other, which, and I know where we're going. And I think our kids feel it. I think we have an inspired football team, coaching staff, been able to bring some new guys in, but I couldn't be more excited about where we're at and where we could potentially go. We built this thing the right way, and we built it on a solid foundation. So I'm really, really excited about where this program is going.
I know one of your goals, obviously, is winning games, and one of them is obviously raising young men. But also, it's that opportunity to take a high schooler and turn him into an NFL player, which you will have this upcoming week when the NFL draft is coming, whether it's Johnny Newton, the Isaiahs, Randolph, etc. What is this time like for you? What is it like watching the draft, knowing one of your or multiple of your guys' names are going to be called?
It really, truly, for me as a head coach in my 16th year, this is one of the most rewarding times. You get disappointed because they're no longer playing for you, which is a disappointment. But to get on the phone, I've literally probably had, half a dozen phone calls in the last 24, 48 hours, not about just one player, Johnny Newton, who'll probably be our first taken, probable first-round guy, to Tip Ryman. The first time I met him, he was 6'5", 224. Now he's 6'5" and 268, and one of the fastest climbing guys in the draft. Isaiah Adams, a guy that we recruited out of a junior college in Garden City, saw a guy that was from Canada that wrote a letter to get to Garden City to get recruited, and now he's one of the best interior linemen in this year's draft. Isaiah Adams, Casey Washington, who's played himself into a draftable position, Julian Pearl, a number of guys that have really cool stories. One of the benefits of my job, I literally get to watch 120 individual stories every year develop in front of me, right? And even though this week we've had 7 or 8 guys that are jumping into portal, guys that probably weren't at the playing time that they had felt they were going to get, which I understand. Now to see, I always tell them when they're leaving my office, we give a hug and I say, hey, this story isn't the end, it's the beginning, right? You've got a new opportunity in front of you. Go embrace and make that thing great. And that's, they don't all end on draft day, but eventually, even draft day isn't the end, it's the beginning, right? So it's a cool part of my job, right? Like you and I both know I got a 6-year-old, 5-year-old at home that's a whole nother world, a whole nother job. But to get these young men to go to a place, my goal as a head coach is to get them to look around one day and say, holy heck, how'd I get here, right? And and that's the benefit of our job.
Well, if you can ever get a mermaid to show up to a football game, I think your girls are going to be thrilled with you. So that's something to work on. The Orange and Blue game coming up Saturday afternoon. Bret Bielema, always great talking to you, man. Thanks.
Amen. ILL.